Hey, you guys. It's Liz again, back with another one. I'm hoping the audio in this is going to be okay because I'm going to do this voiceover style, hopefully mostly. You might see glimpses of me actually speaking to the camera in present tense. Oh gosh, why do I always get gas in my chest when I'm about to record a video? It must just be the anxiety. But in today's video, I want to talk about 5 things that I learned before 25, because I realized that, there's just so much. This I probably have to edit together a little bit, but I realized that I learned quite a few useful things before turning 25. I don't know why 30 felt like, oh, by 30 you'll just have it together. And then I have 30-year-old cousins who are like, no, you'll still be figuring it out then. So I decided to take this time and reflect on what I've learned that I would find important and want to pass on to somebody else. We'll see if I do 5. It might be 7. I'm thinking just 5 though. 5 major bullet points and then breaking it up. And hopefully, if I get my goal right, I'll be able to put this out before I turn 25 on like February 9th at this point, because it's February 8th right now. So hopefully by February 9th at some point in the day, I'll be able to put this out there so it came out before I was 25. But let's just get into it. So I took a moment to gather my thoughts again because I have all of this kind of written down, not a script, mostly ad-libbing. But the first thing I want to say that I learned before 25 that I think will be really helpful for others is learning about your boundaries and other people's too. I think one thing that happens is that people tell you to know your boundaries, like stick to your guns, know your boundaries, all that good stuff. But I think part of becoming more of an adult and less of just finding yourself, which you'll continue to find yourself as an adult, I promise you. I feel like I learned something new about myself probably weekly. But it's not just about learning your boundaries and respecting them, but also respecting others as well. You don't know what kind of trauma and misery somebody else is going through. And learning how to take yourself out of not just what you believe and how you feel, and looking at somebody else and thinking like, okay, well, I might feel this way, but this person might feel a little bit differently for their own reasons. I think part of that as well is I learned how to bear my miseries while also shouldering a little bit of somebody else's. I really think that makes the difference between like an acquaintance and a friend, and then eventually like a partner and a lover. You can't just think about yourself and your boundaries all the time. Sometimes you have to shoulder a little bit of misery for somebody else. And I think that truly is what defines the difference between like an acquaintance and a friend, and someone you like and somebody you love. Sometimes you do things for them that you wouldn't necessarily want to do, but that is love. Whether it is gleeful, it is platonic, or romantic. Love is sometimes just knowing how to be there for that person, even when you don't want to be. I think the next point I want to address is point number 2. The opposite, ironically, is my biggest pet peeve, but something I learned before 25 is just tell the truth. Now, I know most of you guys are gonna be like, you do that pretty frequently, Liz. You're almost always telling the truth. But I'm gonna quote my friend Yoshi. I hope he's okay with it. He said something that I really love, and that has helped me through a lot of things. Not necessarily with lying, but just the way that he looks at it is telling the truth gets you burned now, but lying gets you burned later. The difference is, do you want to know what you're being burned for? I agree with that. A lot of times we think the response that we're going to get for telling the truth is going to be worse than the response we get for lying. and it is often not. Usually people are a lot calmer when you say like, okay, this is how it went, even if it was bad. But I think there's a flip side to telling the truth. And this is one thing that I had to remember and learn as I've gotten older, especially like through my teen years and now as a young adult, is honesty with no tact is cruelty. At the end of the day, you're being cruel if you're not being tactful with your honesty. I know I was queen of the sass and honesty back in high school, where I would just tell it like it is. As an adult, I'm still pretty cut and dry, pretty frank, but I use a lot more tact now because I realize that how you say it sometimes means more than what you're actually saying. I've had a lot of adult friends too, as well, who don't seem to have grasped that quite yet. I will not call names today, but learning how to tactfully bring up something that is bothering you, or tactfully just have a conversation about anything, especially if you're in conflict with each other, is a very big skill. And I hope everybody either got it before 25, hopefully way before 25, or before you turn 25, I hope you will work on that, because I'll tell you, it will make a huge difference in your interpersonal relationships, how you say things. Sometimes it truly is just not what you say, but how it's said. So, on to the next one. The third thing that I think is really important to pass on for others who may not be 25 at the time, since you have some time, not that being 25 makes you a perfect adult in any sense. I still lack, I'm still learning, I still have conflict, I still have to learn how to resolve things. But I'm getting better at it with every year and every step. But third point I'd like to make of something that I learned at before 25. Ooh, I'm so sorry, you guys. Cracking up my voice and everything. People make time for what they find important, and that might not be you. Oh, I was queen of an unrequited crush from middle school, high school, even through college, which it's just how my heart works. The heart wants what it wants. But at the end of the day, probably about 6 months to a year ago, I know that is super recent, but I'm going to be real here. I realized truly that people make time for what they find important. And if it's me, they will make the time. They will reach out. They will make sure things are good. It won't just be every once in a while, whenever I kind of think about you. Well, in a sense, that is, you still care. But if you truly value somebody's time, you will seek it out. You will make the plans. You will call them. You will text them. You will harass them. I try to make sure that I do that to all of my friends. Some, it ends up being more than others just due to location and I hate to say convenience, but location and convenience does play a part into it. But I try to make sure that like I'm sending messages at least monthly to certain friends. Some friends is weekly because I know they need the support more than others. It just depends. You have to find what works in your friendships and relationships, because some people don't want to hear from you every day. That's just a fact. But some people need that reassurance just to know that somebody's there and is caring and listening and praying for them. But if you notice that somebody's not really reaching out, or when you reach out, the conversations are short or just kind of, it's okay to admit that maybe you're not their priority. Granted, unless you're married or in a relationship, or really married, you probably are not going to be the number one priority. I mean that in the kindest way possible. I would think you should, at least as somebody's friend, make it up there on the list in terms of just somewhat of a priority, something that they check on, something that they care for. For example, when I had to get back home from Baltimore, it was very sudden. A lot was going on, and I was stressed. I had to reach out to my friend Logan, so shout out to Lulu, about getting a ride back home. And for those of you who don't know, that's about a 3-hour one way, so 6-hour round trip. Logan went above and beyond because she had a long day at school. She still took the time and was like, hey, I can be there. It's a long day at school, but like, I can be there at this time. You let me know. We corresponded, discovered that since she's going to bring someone with her, bigger car was needed. Shout out to Keith for this, because he ended up coming in and saving the day. He drove all the way back there and back. But again, priorities. These are some of my closest friends. We're like constantly checking up on each other. We're constantly making each other laugh. Like, when I say constantly, I mean like every week we're hearing from each other and looking out for each other. I felt so touched when they did that for me, because I know what it's like to rearrange your schedule for something or someone. That should not be a weekly or daily thing, y'all, where you have to rearrange yourselves. That might be an unhealthy relationship, but that's not this video. But you will know if someone finds your time and energy to be important. That's the TED Talk. So I feel like that was a good thing to talk about here. That's my number 3 point. I'm glad I discovered that sooner rather than later, instead of having to figure that out way later and hurt feelings and some stuff. 4th point, y'all, out of 5. I'm doing really good. I condensed them well. I'm looking at my notes. So we're on point number 4. Moving in silence. Ugh. Pet peeve, you guys. When somebody puts all of their business out there at all times. It is not only unsafe and unhealthy, it's just not a good idea. It's okay to move in silence. It's okay to not let everybody know what you're thinking or what you know. That is totally natural. Actually, I have a 2-year-old nephew, almost 2-year-old nephew, who is so good at that, not letting you know what he thinks or what he knows. If he can do it, you can do it too. Even the process of the whole Korea series, like going to Korea, teaching, and like coming back, moving in silence. I personally don't like the idea of broadcasting every joy and sorrow I have. That's my prerogative, though. I know everybody's different. That's totally fine. But for me, I personally do best when not everybody is watching me, and I can kind of figure things out and work through them and not feel the constant stress and pressure of having someone staring or looking over my shoulder. I move in silence because it works best for me. It's not about being sneaky. It is so not about being sneaky in the situation. It's about getting stuff done. It's about not having the constant stress of being in the public eye. I would highly recommend learning when and how to move in silence. And you can make some really big moves without ever letting anybody know. So I think I should leave that there. We did it, you guys. 0.5 out of 5 of things I learned before 25. Last but not least at all, with a little bit of drum roll, please. Life will not always go to plan. However, the challenges you face today will help you through tomorrow. I have seen this repeatedly happen as a pattern in my life. I go through something, I endure something, and I don't understand why in the moment. But then something happens in the future. It's not always near. It's not always the next day. But sometime in the future, I learn the reason why I went through it. And it has been, I would say, 99% of the time to help someone else, and another 1% to help me through it. I'm trying to think of a good example of this without using the stupid college story I have about it. So let me think. having to deal with certain teachers and certain professors. So this is not the college story that I was thinking of, but it is kind of college related. Prepared me so well to go into the adult working world. I learned what is normal and what is completely not normal, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. I am so thankful for that in retrospect. In fact, today, during an interview I had, which I guess now y'all know, I'll tell you more about that in the video shot today. Not this one, but you'll see later. The person interviewing me made a comment that he really liked how I had a sense of calmness to me. He said, because it gets very hectic here and we need someone who is very peaceful and calm. I internally chuckled so hard because I had an answer to what he said, but not appropriate for where we were. So I said, thank you, sir. That's really kind. But the thing about me is I am usually in my head for everything you guys hear me say. There are about 20 things I'm not saying that go into my mind. I'm always thinking, my mind is always on go. It's just my thing. When I tested for the personality test, you guys, I am INFJ, which sounds crazy to some people, but yeah, I'm mostly introverted. There's so many things I don't like to talk about and things that I will never say out loud to you unless we are very close friends and I feel like I can trust you. The reason I have an aura of peace to me instead of panic now is because so many things have happened to me and around me that I've just learned the best use of my energy is not to panic, but to sit, think about it, and then help. Not react, but to help. This has gotten me through so many situations I can't even describe. So many situations. I feel pretty peaceful at 25, or like a day from being 25 as I record this, or 2 days, something like that. I feel that way because I learned how to process my feelings. One thing my friend Michaela says, a shout out, she'll be in this video and a few different pictures and videos probably when I compile them together and make a cohesive video. One thing my friend Michaela said to me today, and I smiled because this is truly one of the most genuine compliments I've gotten in a long time. She's like, Liz, if there's one thing I love about you, you will make lemonade out of lemons. Doesn't matter how they are, you will make lemonade out of lemons. And you know what? That was one of the best compliments I've gotten in a long time, because I try my best for myself and others just to be the best version of myself that I can be. Not fake, but just to be the best version of me. To love and show kindness and to be understanding. Because at the end of the day, I don't get to see everything that happens to my people. But what I can do, and I want to do this I've been doing it apparently with that compliment, but let's continue that energy forever, is to just make the best of any situation I'm placed in. And to remember that bad times, just like good times, have an ending. Well, no, we hope good lasts forever, but bad times are just that. Bad times. They go away, and then you're back to normal. So, I hope everybody enjoyed my 5 facts, like the 5 things I learned before 25. So I'm going to end this video here with 3 friends that I asked what's something you learned before 25 that you think would be useful for somebody? So shout out to Devin Suyunga, Suyunga. I said it. There we go. My voice cracked and everything. And Carolyn, I think your words will bring comfort to somebody. There's some things I didn't think about. Carolyn's really resonated with me though, because I'm famous for doing this. But I'm gonna add them to the end of the video. And I hope everybody has a great day and I get this done before February 10th so we could do something else for that. Bye.